Some people just disappear. Not dramatically. Not with a big announcement or a farewell post that gets 1,000 likes. They just quietly stop showing up to the game. Everyone else is still playing. One day they're in meetings, chasing deadlines, angling for the next title, and then they're not. Smaller apartment. Older car. Less impressive answer when someone asks what they do. And the strangest part? They seem okay. Actually okay. Not performing okay. Not I'm fine okay. Genuinely, quietly, almost annoyingly okay. And most of us look at those people and assume something went wrong. We tell ourselves they burned out, got passed over, couldn't handle the pressure. Because if they chose this, if they walked away on purpose, then the game we're still playing might not be the only game. And that's a thought most of us aren't ready to have. So what's actually going on? What happens inside a person when they stop chasing what everyone else is still running after? And is it weakness, or is it something else entirely? Your brain was not built for the modern world. It was built for survival. For hundreds of thousands of years, your position in the social hierarchy determined almost everything. How much food you got, who protected you, whether the group kept you or left you behind. Status wasn't ego. Status was survival. And so your brain built a system that rewards climbing and punishes falling behind. Every time you get promoted, dopamine releases. Every time your salary goes up, your reward circuits fire. Every time someone important validates your work, your brain registers it the same way it registers food when you're starving. This isn't a metaphor. Neuroscience research consistently shows that social rewards and physical rewards activate overlapping pathways in the brain. Your brain, at a biological level, treats career advancement like nourishment. And modern work culture has built a near-perfect machine around this. Quarterly targets, performance reviews, bonuses tied to visible metrics, titles that signal exactly where you rank, small wins delivered on a schedule designed to keep you just satisfied enough to want more. From a psychological standpoint, it's a brilliantly designed system, and it's extremely difficult to step away from, not because you're weak, but because it's working exactly the way evolution intended. Here's the cruel part, though. The reward always resets. Psychologists call it the hedonic treadmill. You get the promotion, and it feels incredible for maybe a few weeks. Then it becomes the new normal. The baseline shifts. And now you need the next promotion to feel what you felt before. The house you dreamed about becomes just the house you live in. The salary that felt like freedom becomes the floor you need to maintain your life. You're running, and the finish line keeps moving, and the machine is designed so that this never quite feels like enough. Most people never seriously question this. Not because they're not intelligent, but because the system is so well aligned with how their brains evolved that questioning it feels unnatural. It feels like giving up. And so they run. There's nothing wrong with running if the race is giving you genuine meaning. But a lot of people are running on empty and calling it ambition. Now here's where it gets interesting. Because the people who quietly exit, who voluntarily take the pay cut, choose the slower track, trade the title for time, their brains appear to process trade-offs differently. When psychologists and behavioral researchers have studied this group, they don't find people who stopped caring. They find people whose internal reward system shifted. The things that used to feel like winning started to feel hollow. The things they used to dismiss as small, a slow morning, a real conversation, time that belongs to them, started to feel significant. The question is, what causes that shift? Because it doesn't happen to everyone. Most people go their whole lives without it. Sometimes it's burnout. Not just tired on a Sunday burnout. Chronic, sustained, this is affecting my health burnout. When you spend years treating every deadline like a crisis and every email like an emergency, your nervous system starts to malfunction. The part of your brain designed to detect physical danger starts firing in response to a calendar notification. At that point, stepping off the ladder isn't quitting. It's your body trying to protect you. Sometimes it's a health event. You're 43 and your doctor uses words you weren't expecting, and suddenly you do the actual math on what you're trading your health for, and the numbers don't work. Sometimes it's watching someone you love near the end of their life, and they don't talk about their career highlights. They talk about what they missed, the mornings they rushed through, the people they didn't have enough time for, the version of themselves they kept promising to become once things slowed down. Things never slowed down, and something in you shifts permanently when you witness that. And sometimes this is the one people talk about least. There's no dramatic trigger at all. It's just a Tuesday. You're in a meeting that could have been an email, in a building you don't particularly like, doing work that stopped feeling like yours a long time ago, and something quietly, undramatically shifts. You look around and think, is this it? Not in despair, just in honest curiosity. Is this what I actually want? Or is this what I decided I wanted when I was 22 and didn't yet know what I was choosing? That question is the beginning of the exit for a lot of people. And when they take it seriously, they hit 4 walls almost immediately. The first is identity. Your job title has been your shorthand for who you are for years. It's how you introduce yourself. It's how you measure yourself against people you grew up with. When you strip it away, you don't just lose a job description. You lose a significant piece of how you understand yourself. That's a real loss. People who dismiss it have never actually gone through it. The second is social pressure. When you downshift, people ask if you're okay with a tone that implies they don't think you are. Colleagues assume you got pushed out. Family members worry. Friends get quietly uncomfortable, not always because they're judgmental, but because your choice is a mirror. If you stepped off and you're okay, then maybe their choice to keep climbing isn't as inevitable as they thought. Your exit makes other people audit their own decisions, and that makes everyone uncomfortable in ways they can't quite name. The third is financial fear, and this one is legitimate. You're earning less. Your safety net is growing more slowly. What if something goes wrong? That anxiety doesn't disappear just because you made a thoughtful decision. Many people who downshift report that even when their finances are objectively stable, the loss of upward momentum feels like falling, even when it isn't. The fourth wall is one that surprises people the most. It's the loss of the game itself. When you're in the race, you have clarity, clear goals, clear metrics, a clear way to know if today was a good day. When that structure disappears, some people discover they miss it. Not the suffering, but the focus, the adrenaline, the sense of being in something that matters because the world agrees it matters. Without that, you're left with a question most people have never had to seriously answer. What do I actually want? Not what looks impressive, not what makes sense on paper. What do I, as the person I actually am right now, genuinely want from this life? That is a much harder question than how do I get the next promotion? Because the promotion has a path, steps, metrics. But figuring out what you actually want requires something different, sitting with uncertainty, being honest about what you've been avoiding, building your life around internal measures instead of external ones. Most people never develop that skill because the race keeps them too busy to need it. Here's what actually tends to happen to people who go through this transition and make it out the other side. They don't land in paradise. That's important to understand. The people who romanticize leaving the treadmill as some kind of instant liberation are missing half the story. Yes, the stress decreases. Yes, the autonomy increases. But there's often a period, sometimes a long one of genuine disorientation. Without the external scaffolding of career achievement, they have to do the hard internal work of figuring out what gives their life meaning. And for people who've been using busyness to avoid that question, the answer doesn't come easy. Some people discover they were running from something, not towards something. The constant motion was a way of not having to sit still with themselves. And when the motion stops, whatever they were running from is still there. That can be difficult to face. It takes real courage to stay with it instead of running back to the ladder. But the people who do stay with it, who work through the disorientation instead of escaping it, tend to develop something hard to describe, but easy to recognize when you see it. A kind of settledness. A relationship with themselves that doesn't depend on external proof. A capacity to feel satisfied by things that don't show up on anyone else's scoreboard. They start to notice what they use to blow past. The quality of a morning, the texture of a real conversation. They remember their weeks instead of just surviving them. They make decisions from a clearer place because they've done the work of figuring out what they actually value, not what they were told to value. And here's something worth knowing about the brain. It's more changeable than most people believe. When people genuinely and consistently shift how they spend their time and what they pay attention to, their experience of what feels rewarding can shift too, gradually over months and years. The things that used to produce the strongest pull can start to loosen. The things they used to overlook can start to matter more. It's not magic. It's not guaranteed, but it's real. So here's what I want to leave you with, and I want to say this carefully, because I think most conversations about this get it wrong in one direction or the other. The race is not a trap. The people still climbing are not brainwashed or deluded. They are following real evolutionary drives toward security, achievement, and contribution. If the race is giving you genuine meaning, not just dopamine, but actual meaning, then run. Own it without apology. And leaving the race is not enlightenment. It's not the spiritually superior choice. It comes with real costs, financial, social, psychological, and anyone who tells you otherwise is selling something. What this is actually about is consciousness. Are you in the race because you chose it, or because you never stopped to question it? Are you exiting because you've genuinely figured out what you want, or because you're avoiding something? The answer to those questions matters more than which path you're on. Because a conscious choice, even a hard one, even an unpopular one, even one that comes with real trade-offs, is worth more than a default. It's the difference between living your life and just passing through it. If you're someone who's already stepped off and you're struggling with the financial anxiety, the identity questions, the strange grief of leaving something behind, even though you chose to leave, hear this. What you're feeling is not a sign that you made the wrong choice. It's a sign that you made a real one. Real choices have real costs. The discomfort is not failure. It's the price of living honestly. If you're still in the race, but something in this is sitting with you uncomfortably, good. You don't have to blow up your life today. But you might want to start asking the question you've been too busy to ask. Because the longer you wait, the louder it gets. Here's what I want you to do right now. Not subscribe, not like the video. I want you to actually think about one thing. The last time you made a decision about work, about time, about how you spent your week, did you make it because you wanted to or because you were supposed to? Just sit with that. Because that gap between what you want and what you're supposed to want, that's where your whole life is hiding. If you want to go deeper on this, my next video is about the psychology of people who genuinely need very little to feel like enough. Not because they gave up on wanting things, but because they got specific about what they actually want. It will change how you think about satisfaction in a way that sticks. Go watch it next. And if you want early access to videos like this before they go public, the join button is below. Either way, thanks for being here. And think about that question.